The skies are on fire this full moon week. So in this week's podcast, we're talking about fiery conversations, the power of emotional release work under the full moon. Plus, I'll give you 3 questions from my Moonology Diary to ask yourself this full moon. Welcome to the Mainly Moonology podcast. I'm your host, Yasmin Boland, an award-winning astrologer and the Sunday Times best-selling author of books including Moonology and creator of the Moonology Oracle cards. My intention for this podcast is to help you understand how you can create your dream life using mainly Moonology, the moon, as your guide. All right. Hello, it's Yasmin here with your Mainly Moonology podcast for the week. So yes, the skies really are on fire this full moon week. How are you feeling? If you're feeling really kind of pent up and overexcited and weird and just generally a little bit out of control, that is the full moon energy that's coming in this week. And it's not a gentle energy. Let's talk about the idea of emotional mayhem. If your emotions are just all over the place right now, if you're happy, then you're sad, and then you're happy, and then you don't know why you're sad, but you feel like crying, and then you just want to sleep, and then you're so happy again, and everything feels amazing, that is because of the energies which have been building throughout the last week or so, and which are now going to start to peak. Here's the thing. Mars is going backwards right now. Mars is the planet of action. It's the planet of drive. It's the planet of anger. It's the planet of pushing forwards to get what you want. Okay, except guess what? Right now, it's going backwards. Now, what does it mean when Mars is going backwards? Well, if you have a look, if you really want to know, I did a whole podcast on this a few weeks ago. Have a look at the past podcast list and you'll find the Mars retrograde podcast. However, the other thing to know about this in a nutshell, if you don't want to go and listen to the old podcast, and even if you do, Mars is the planet of drive, determination, and losing your temper. Okay, so when Mars goes into one of its rare retrograde cycles, which only happen about once every 2 years, it's a chance for us to actually see how our lives run when we don't overreact to every little thing. Now, I don't know about you, but I know for me, it's been quite easy for me over the past, months, weeks, months, years, to just start to get a little bit overreactive. I think a lot of people's nervous systems got shot during the pandemic. Let's face it, we were all at home trying not to die, and especially at the beginning. I know some of you never believed in the pandemic, and that's fine, but some people did believe in the pandemic and got extremely worried and really suffered as a result of all the fear that was sort of waging war within their bloodstream and their brain and their heart. So a lot of people's nervous systems just got completely shot. And the result is that people have become very sort of like to have a hair trigger, losing their temper at the very little thing. So now with Mars going backwards, it's actually a really good chance for us all to discover what happens when I keep my counsel. What happens when I don't snap at people? Is there perhaps someone in your life you've been snapping at that you need to stop snapping at? Because, what they say is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if you're, just being really, really nice to your partner or your kids or your boss or whatever, but you're secretly snapping away at your mum or your neighbor or whatever, it's not really healthy. We have to all try to learn to keep our temper and to see how our lives change when we keep our temper. Now, as soon as I say this, I'm reminded of a friend of mine who I'm actually going to see tonight, who I remember we had a conversation a couple of years ago saying, oh my God, I wish I could just shut the F up sometimes. I'm so confrontational and I'm so assertive and I don't like to back down. I'm really like, I should have been born in Aries really, because it's very Aries, my temper sometimes. And she said to me, "Oh my God, Yasmin, you're so lucky. I wish I could stand up for myself more. I wish I could say what I really think." You know, this is a woman who had her very expensive Gucci boots stolen by her cleaner. And then I think her cleaner actually even turned up wearing them or something. And she literally said nothing. It was some kind of story like that. So, you know, everybody has their thing. And so if you're like me and you just say too much too soon, Mars retrograde is a time for you to actually sort of see what happens when you don't just shoot off at the lip all the time. And if you wish you were more, not necessarily confrontational, but assertive, if you stood up for yourself a little bit more, then now is a very good time to give it a go, see how it feels. And, you know, apart from anything else, it's the season of goodwill. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, you know, there is a kind of a general happiness that takes over the planet at the end of the year as we can kind of wipe away all the difficult times and start afresh. So, you know, it's the season to be merry. See what happens if you start to either stop snapping at people if you're too snappy, and or standing up for yourself and being a little bit more assertive if you know that you need to do that. The thing is, we are all here on planet Earth to evolve, okay? Evolve. And learning to master our emotions and to stand up for ourselves is huge, huge. Because, you know, remember, we're all manifesting 24/7, whether we think of it or not, whether we mean to or not. You know, in Moonology, we stop twice a month, once at the new moon, once at the full moon, to really work on our manifesting, and maybe at the quarter moon as well if we're really on a manifesting binge at the time. But we're actually manifesting 24/7. So it's you know, what we do at the new, full and quarter moons is very powerful, because it actually helps us to align our energies. It gives us a realignment once a month, because we are manifesting 24/7 from our emotions. So if you're spending your life thinking, you know, being angry, or if you're spending your life feeling frustrated, then you're just going to get more and more of that in your life, because what we are is what we attract. People think it's all about what you imagine. It is partly about being able to imagine what you want. You have to be able to visualize it. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. But it's also about what we are, what we're putting out 24/7. So this week we get a full moon, which is always an emotional time, okay? There's a reason why I'm talking about all this stuff. It's the full moon in the sign of Gemini, and I'm just going to refer to my trusty Moonology Diary 2022 for the last full moon of the year information. The Moonology Diary 2023 is now on sale. It's selling really well, and I'd love you to grab a copy before it sells out. It's got, it's all beautiful. It's newly designed. It's got all the new moon and full moon information for the year ahead, you know, and also information about what we can expect from the energies of every new and full moon and so on, plus all the times around the world. So let me just quickly read you the times around the world for the full moon in Gemini this week. So if you are in Los Angeles, it'll be the full moon on December 7 at 8 minutes past 8 p.m. So that's actually great, because you can do your full moon ceremony under the full moon. Ditto if you're in New York, December 7 at 11:08 p.m. If you're in London, it's going to be 4:08 p.m. And if you're in Sydney, it's going to be December 8, 3:08 p.m. I'm not sure if I said London is December 8, 4:08 p.m. and Sydney, December 8, 3:08 p.m. So let me just read you a little bit from the diary so you know what to expect. I'm actually going to share with you something that I haven't shared anywhere else. In the diary, every new moon and full moon has a little exercise, which basically is designed to help work with the energy. So this is the one for the last full moon of the year, I think it is, the full moon in Gemini this week. So it says, let go of 2022. I hope that 2022 has been a brilliant year for you. However, if there have been tough times, now is the time to let them go. The last full moon of the year is taking place in the sign of Gemini, which rules our minds. So soothe any troubled thoughts from this year by blessing the situation in question that has hurt you or upset you, and blessing anyone involved in it, and by forgiving everyone, including yourself. Offer up to the divine any situations still not working the way you'd like them to, using these 3 simple Sanskrit vibrations: Om. Namo Narayani, which means I surrender to the divine. Let the divine take care of everything for you. Okay, so I'm just going to do that chant it with me. I'll just do it once. Here we go. Om Namo Narayani. All right, so this full moon is taking place, as I said, in the sign of Gemini, which is very interesting because Gemini is the sign of communications, okay? So talking about the fact that Mars is retrograde at the moment, which is teaching us to STFU, if you know what that stands for, to be quiet, to keep our counsel, not to say too much. Angry words, if you can avoid angry words now and see how that changes your life, you will be getting the best that this current week of energies has to offer you. Why angry words? Because Mars is the planet of anger, and Gemini, which is where the full moon is all about words. So angry words. Because guess what? The full moon is triggering Mars, okay? The full moon is bang on Mars and triggering Mars. So what I'm doing, and you do whatever suits you, but I am trying to hold the vision that this full moon in Gemini conjunct Mars can be a turning point for upsets and angry exchanges. And I'm not just talking about in my own life or in my street or my community or my city or my country or my countries. I'm talking about the whole world. So let's all hold that idea this full moon week. And also, I'd just like to really touch upon the power of emotional release work. You know, it's really, really important. The more I look into this, the more I believe it's important to do something physical as well as something emotional and spiritual. So this full moon, you know, when we do our full moon ceremony, we might do a bit more shaking because the shaking is so good to help release trapped energies. But we'll also do the forgiveness work as well, which is really, really powerful. Emotional release work is so powerful because life is about intentions. And once we start to release anger and release resentment, our lives start to change. And this full moon in Gemini conjunct Mars is absolutely the number one time to be doing this. The good news as well is that right after the full moon, we're going to get a harmonious link from the Sun to Saturn. So this suggests that if you do your emotional work, you really can start to build something constructively that's going to be solid and that's going to really work in your favor. Remember that full moons are turnaround times. They're a time where we can turn a corner, and they come along every month. All right. So really, but this one, the last one of the year, think, what do I need to release? I'm just going to check. Is it the last one? Yeah, it has to be the last one of the year because it's December the 8th. It's the last one of the year because then all we have after this is, I'm just looking again in my Moonology Diary, the super new moon in Capricorn on the 23rd of December. So yeah, it's the last full moon of the year. So it really is time to just let it all go. It's a time to forgive yourself and anyone else for anything that's gone on this year. And in particular, you know, if you've been through dark times, if you've done shadow work this year, if you've had to kind of go into the abyss and take a look at yourself, and if you've looked at yourself and you haven't been that keen on what you've seen, if you've looked in the mirror and you've thought, I'm not being the person I want to be, and if something has forced you to really take a deep, long look at yourself, that is okay. And now it's time to heal, to let it go, to move on. You know, accept yourself the way you are and know that you're trying to do your best and you're trying to fix whatever needs fixing in order that you can be the person that you want to be. I will be doing a full moon ceremony, as I always do every full moon. And there's always a bit of confusion about where it is. The full moon ceremony is always on the Hay House Facebook page. I don't know if it'll be like that next year, but I'm telling you for the last one this year, the full moon is always on the Hay House Facebook page. That's Hay House who publishes my books. So last little mention again, if you love working with the moon and you want to make moon work a part of your 2023 and you want to have as good a year as you possibly can, please grab a copy of my Moonology Diary. You can get it from moonologydiary.com, moonologydiary.com. And if you buy it there, buy it via one of the links there and register it, you will get a ton of amazing bonuses, including you will get access to my free January workshop, which is all about manifesting love and money in 2023. Had a meeting with my team and we decided, let's just teach people about manifesting love and money in 2023, because at the end of the day, that's what we all need, isn't it? I'm going to finish today with 3 questions, again, from my Moonology Diary, which, as I said, you can get from moonologydiary.com, moonologydiary.com. 3 questions to ask yourself, okay? Are you ready? Here we go. If negative thoughts are my enemy, what can I focus on in my life that's positive? Ask yourself that now and in the lead up to the full moon and after the full moon. If negative thoughts are my enemy, what can I focus on in my life now that's positive? All right. If you've got my diary, it's on page 239 and you can fill in the blanks on the page. Which upset am I ready to move on from? How would I feel if I healed this upset? Is there someone I need to reach out to? So which upset are you ready to move on from now as 2022 comes to an end? How would you feel if you healed this upset? And is there someone you need to reach out to? Okay, that's question 2. And last but not least, question 3. How might releasing upsets from 2022 make 2023 a better year for me? And as I said, they're from my Moonology Diary, which you can get at moonologydiary.com, page 239 for this month, and you can get the 2023 diary for next year. All right, well, with all that said, I'm going to say have a beautiful, beautiful week, and I will hopefully speak to you next week. Lots of love. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Mainly Moonology podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe, give us a review, and we'll be eternally grateful. We publish the podcast every Monday, 4 p.m. UK time, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and I'm afraid to say it's silly o'clock in Australia, but it will be there when you wake up on a Tuesday morning. Have a great week.